But in Morocco, thanks to God, we are a stable country and we are developing our democracy. So it is interesting to know why and how comes we continue, thanks to God, to be stable and to continue to develop our democracy. It's because of some very important and specific choices that we had in democratic choices that we did in the very first years after our independence, beginning by 56. So I was saying that in 56, just after our independence, because we were under the domination of France and Spain, we did some choices which are very important. The first thing is to always have diversity in politics, pluralism in politics. We should never have one unique party. In Morocco, since 56, the unique party is prohibited. We should have a lot of parties and have diversity and competition between parties. And second is a law related to freedom of association, freedom of labors, freedom of the people. So these are two main choices that were done at that period. And another thing is that we started our democratic reforms that are the result of a long period of years where a lot of fighting was done to implement these democratic reforms. And these democratic reforms started by the middle of 90s under the King Hassan II and was very much accelerated with the new King Mohammed VI beginning by 1990. So in these reforms, a lot of things was done. Freedom of opinion, freedom of press and media, freedom of protests. Since the middle of 90s, it's very common in Morocco to have protests not almost every day, and several protests every day, especially here in front of the parliament. So people are free. People are free and free to express their opinion, to express what they don't like and whatever. Elections also, since Mohammed VI, the king, 2002, all the elections were free and transparent, and there are a lot of observers coming from NGOs from outside of Morocco, also from inside of Morocco, that are observing the elections. No party, no association has criticized the transparency of elections. They can criticize the results, but the results, it is the result of the competition between the parties, but the process always was transparent, and it is very important. So it's something that started with the King Mohammed VI in 2002. Also reforms related to human rights. It's a very important reform because in the past we had a period where we observed some violations on human rights, and these violations were studied by a group that was implemented. It was an Instance and Reconciliation Commission that they studied all these violations of human rights, and there was some compensation related to these people. And there was also a very important report in 2004, and in this report a lot of recommendations related to the importance and the way we should implement human rights. And now this report is, you can say that all the recommendation was included in the new constitution in 2011. We also had reforms related to women. On women, it was also an important reform done in 2004, and the king was pushing this reform to go forward. It's the status of the family, the status and the women, and because before this reform, women were always under the authority of men, either the father when they were under the family, and when they were married, they were under the authority of their husband. So they were considered minor. So they didn't have the same rights as men. So now with this reform, men and women has fully the same rights and the same obligations also, but also the same rights. And it's a very important reform that implemented a new status for the family and a new status. So the family is not based on the authority of the man, but the status of the family is based on the co-authority of men and women, and women are fully responsible of the family, and they have exactly the same rights and the same obligations. So it was a very important reform also. So because of all these reforms, all of these reforms were done before what was called the Arab uprising. And that's why when in 2011, when we had also some protests, like in other countries, the King of Morocco came in April to the TV and said we will accelerate the reforms. And he announced a new constitution with a new series of reforms related to the democratization of the country. And now, since 2011, we are implementing now this new constitution, and we had some national elections in November 2011, and the parliament where we are today, and the National Assembly where we are today, is the result of this election of November 2011. So, to make a resume, Morocco is a monarchy, a constitutional monarchy, and there is a special link between the king and the people. There was always this very strong link between the people and the king. And in this constitutional monarchy, which means that we have a constitution, as I said, every role of every institution is very clearly defined in our system. There is the role of the government, who is responsible for the executive power, and the chairman of the government, the chief of the government, should always be appointed within the party that wins the election, the national elections. Then you have the role of the parliament, the legislative institution. Our role is the legislation, so all the laws should be or initiated in the parliament or discussed in the parliament if it is a governmental initiative, and all the laws should be issued by the parliament. The second prerogative of the parliament is to control the government and to bring government into account and to make government accountable. This is one of the new principles of the new constitution. That you can have a responsibility, you can be head of the government, you can be head of whatever, but if you are responsible of something, you should be accountable and you should present what you've done and to justify that all that you've done is according to all the laws. So this principle is very important, and the parliament is in charge of bringing government to accountability. And we have also a justice, which is independent justice, and we have in this moment also a very important reform which is being processed to develop the justice in Morocco. Let me just conclude by saying that to us relationship between Korea and Morocco are very, very important. We have established our relationship in 1962, so it's 52 years ago. It's important. I noticed that we had a celebration of 50 years of relationship between Korea and Morocco 2 years ago. We had a visit, I think, of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And it's interesting because the parliament and the modern democracy life in Morocco is also 50 years old. Yeah. So our democracy and our relation have the same age. Because we have celebrated some weeks ago the 50th anniversary of the parliament. As you said, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the relationship between our two countries is diverse and very intense. You mentioned things related to human exchanges. like volunteers coming from Korea to our administration, also exchange related to training and expertise. So it's something very, very important, and we should encourage that, very important, because the more people meet together, especially young people, the more they become friends and they materialize the friendship between the two countries. It's the best way, even if we are quite far from geographical point of view, to have this kind of changement and relations. Also, on economic point of view, I think that we can continue to develop this relationship, especially on some sectors like fishing, like new technologies, or tourism also, air transport. A lot of sectors can continue to be developed between our two countries. I think that we have a group related to the promotion of economic projects between the two countries. I don't know how does it work, if it's effective or not. It's important because in this case, you're a dynamic country. You are quite impressed by the success of the Republic of Korea. It's a very important success, and to us it's interesting to study this success and to provoke a good collaboration and a dynamic collaboration, because we are also a success in our region. In 1973, 2 years before we took back our territories from the Spanish, that was colonizing the Saharan region, a movement of liberation, a movement of separatists was created. It's the Polisario movement. And this movement, in reality, in the beginning, was not separatist. In its history, when it was created to liberalize the Saharan region from the Spanish colony to get back to Morocco. But after it was created, this movement changed because of other countries oriented them. It was like Libya at that time and like Algeria until now, which has sustained this Polisario movement, not only to fight the colonization of Spain, but also to demand for separation of the Saharan region, and all Moroccan people refuse categorically to separate the Saharan region from the other territories of Morocco. So, in front of this situation, all Moroccan people agrees that this region is Moroccan and do not accept absolutely any separation. And in order to solve the problem, which is domiciliated in front of within the United Nations organization, United Nations organization follows this conflict, and which is an artificial conflict, but it is anyway a conflict. So this, the idea is to find now a political solution, because the United Nations says you should find a political solution for this conflict. So to find a political solution, Morocco has proposed to create in this area, under the sovereignty of Morocco, an autonomy with very large missions, with very large prerogatives, with a local government, regional government, with a local or regional parliament, and all of this under the sovereignty of Morocco. This proposal is being studied now under the umbrella of the United Nations organization, and the objective of Morocco is to contribute to solve this problem, to find a solution, a political solution that the other parties can agree, but at the same time to preserve the sovereignty of Morocco, because it is the will of all the Moroccans. And I would like just to add that even if you are very far from this region, that in the sub-Saharan region we observed this last decade, last 10 years, in Mali, in Guinea, in Niger, in a lot of countries, in the south of Algeria, development of terrorism, of crime, of traffics of drugs, of weapons, and so on. Also because of what happened in Libya and so on. And all what contribute to weakening states contribute to develop terrorism and crime. That's why, and this issue is very, also from security point of view and stability point of view, it is very important, and it is necessary that we accelerate in the United Nations the process to find a political solution to these artificial conflicts.
서부사하라 문제는 우리 모로코에 있어서 아주 중요한 사안임을 잘 알고 있습니다.
Je sais bien que le sujet de Sahara est un sujet primordial pour le Maroc.
특히 북한의 영도력 하에 정파를 초월해서 전 국민이 단합된 모습을 보이는 것에 대하여 깊은 인상을 받았습니다.
Vous m'avez donné une très grande impression par votre unité nationale sur ce sujet qui se trouve au-dessus des divergences politiques, sous la houlette de Sa Majesté Roi Mohammed VI.
유엔의 평화적 해결을 위한 노력을 우리는 지지합니다.
La Corée soutient tous les efforts de l'ONU pour accueillir une solution politique dans cette région.
유엔의 틀 내에서 당사국끼리 조속한 시일 내에 서로 수용할 수 있는 해결안이 나오기를 기대하고 있습니다.
Nous espérons bien dans le prochain avril, il y aura une solution qui peut être acceptable pour tous les parties concernées dans le cadre des efforts de l'ONU.
의장님의 오늘 설명은 우리 일행은 물론 많은 분들에게 깊은 인상을 주었다고 생각합니다.
Votre explication très illustrative et évidente et nous a donné une impression étonnante. Et donc, ça a beaucoup aidé pour améliorer notre compréhension sur la région.
예, 그리고 우리 양국 관계가 그동안 인적 물적 교류가 꾸준히 증가해 왔는데 이번에 개교회에서 다양한 방면에서 좀 더 관계가 확대 심화되기를 진심으로 바랍니다.
Les relations bilatérales entre les deux pays se développent de manière continuelle dans le volet humain et dans le volet matériel. Donc, je veux bien que cette cadence continue dans l'avenir encore et notre visite contribuera un petit peu sur cette cadence.
양국 간의 정부와 정부, 의회와 의회 교류도 대단히 중요합니다만은 그 문화적 교류, 그리고 미래 세대인 청소년의 교류는 그 갖는 의미가 대단히 큽니다.
Bien sûr, c'est très important et les relations entre les gouvernements, c'est aussi important les relations entre les parlements, mais les relations entre les communautés civiles, c'est aussi important et surtout quand il s'agit des jeunes générations qui sera notre avenir.